Hi, HRN listeners. We're celebrating our 15th anniversary, and we have a really fun campaign and an ask for you. This 15th anniversary tour is aiming to bring you closer to unique food and music experiences in some of the most exciting cities in America. All the while, we're raising funds to support our work empowering the next generation of food systems storytellers through our fellowship programs. Here's how it works. Donate to HRN and be entered into a raffle in the city of your choice to win a dinner for two at a noteworthy restaurant and tickets for two to a concert at a prominent local venue. We have incredible partners in New York, Los Angeles, Philadelphia, Nashville, Las Vegas, Charleston, Asheville, and Ardmore, Pennsylvania, who have donated a meal for two and two tickets to a concert of the winner's choice. And all donations help fund our fellowship programs, where we're helping to build essential workforce readiness skills and food system storytelling skills. Check out heritageradionetwork.org/15 to donate and enter to win today. That's heritageradionetwork.org/15. Thank you.
My name is Brandon Hoy, co-owner of Roberta's, a super duper awesome place. Roberta's is a very, 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 very proud sponsor of the Heritage Radio Network. We're also super awesome. Thank you, Heritage.
You're listening to Heritage Radio Network, broadcasting live from Bushwick, Brooklyn. If you like this program, visit heritageradionetwork.org for thousands more.
Hello, Mr. and Mrs. America, from border to border, coast to coast, and all the ships at sea. Streaming live from the County of Kings, Brooklyn, New York City, on the Heritage Radio Network. Are you ready for the fastest half hour on the internet today? It's the Mike and Judy Show, spanning the globe for high-minded hijinks and lowbrow kicks to bring you the best in sex, drugs, rock and roll, and nuclear fission. They're too bad for radio and too good-looking for television. And now, here they are, to pluck the low-hanging fruit of the literati. Your hosts, Mike Edison and Judy McGuire.
All right, Judy, we're back.
So good to be back. So good to be back after a whole week off.
Well, you're looking very good today. You finally got over that Morrissey episode. And to meet his murder sideshow.
I love him.
It would have been more than I could possibly have handled, especially that couple making out in the front row.
But yeah, that was kind of inappropriate. Of course, they were a straight couple. One of the only straight men at that show were obviously dragged there by. I went to see Morrissey at Radio City Music Hall a couple weeks ago, and it was a bunch of broads and a bunch of gay men, and then like 10 straight guys who'd obviously been dragged there by their girlfriends or wives.
Well, I'm sure your boyfriend really appreciates not having been dragged there.
Yeah, I know better. After taking him to Primal Scream and having him like moan about that the whole time, I just go by myself or with a girlfriend. Anyway, but we're here
with a very literary show today. I'm really excited about our guest today, Mr. Jobie Hughes.
Welcome.
Thank you, guys. It's great to be here.
Who is the author of a new novel, At Dawn, which we're going to talk about, but also your experience in the salt mines, the James Frey experience, and lots of and just the difficulties in like getting the word out and getting a book out, which Judy and I have both been through recently. Judy's most recent book is the official book of sex, drugs, and rock and roll lists, which you would think would be all net and an easy scoring opportunity there, but you know, people are scared. People live in fear. You know, I mean, that's my take on it, Judy. With my last my book, which is actually my first work of fiction, Bye Bye Miss American Pie, but both of our books deal a lot with sex and are kind of subversive in their own way, and it's weird. People have kind of confused the topic with the thing itself, I think. But how's it going with At Dawn?
Good so far. You know, it's been out a few weeks. You know, I toured for it for about 3 weeks. Finally off. You know, this is my last sort of event here, but you know, it's tough to get the word out, especially a book, you know, published by an independent publisher
and fiction too.
And fiction, you know, so, you know, trying to get the word out and spread it and get people, you know, get the book in the right hands and have people read it. You know, it's a grind.
Let's give us a little bit of background, because this is At Dawn is a book under your own name, but of course you've had an amazing amount of success under a pseudonym in what may be considered a compromised position. So why don't you give us a little background?
True. When I sold At Dawn it was last August, and considering my publishing background, my publisher wasn't entirely sure how they were going to market the book, and so they waited a little while to make any sort of formal announcement, which they finally did in October. And they released a press release October 12th. I remember the day. It was exactly 2 months after the book sold. And literally 4 hours later, Publishers Weekly released their own article, an article that was written for the sole reason to give a shit for calling At Dawn a debut novel.
You can't win.
Can't win. So is it, we didn't call it a debut novel. We called it a literary debut, which it is, and also the first under my own name. But what a lot of people don't know is that I wrote At Dawn, 3 drafts of it, actually, before I Am Number 4 was ever even an idea.
Okay,
what is I Am Number 4? I know, but...
for all the kids at home in Radio Land.
Sure. I Am Number 4 is a project that I collaborated with James Frey on, that I wrote for shit for him, I guess.
He's got, like I said,
lack of a better
his fiction factory, more or less, the James Frey.
I just picture a bunch of like smart young things just out of MFA programs being drained of their blood, all strapped in a row like a cattle, like meat is murder.
Yeah, well, James Frey must die. There's not a lot of love for him here at this show, and just that whole thing with the Million Little Pieces really that's where it started for me, because I had my own memoir come out at the same exact time that whole imbroglio was happening, and as is my wont, I was going to do a video trailer and a little video challenging him to a steel cage match. Okay, I was ready because you know what? I don't have to make anything up. Okay, in my book, I have fun everywhere I go. I had to leave stuff out because there was so much LSD in that book. I didn't think people would believe me, so I had to dial it down. But I certainly didn't fabulize, or fabricate anything. And my publisher, Farrell Strass Giroux, was like, "No, don't do that because you may not have lied, but we have some other memoirists who are now being scrutinized, and we don't need the extra attention because James Frey really." Had he really poisoned the pool.
It turned into a whole shit show for memoir writers at the time, and it's something that's still ongoing now. This many years later.
But so tell us about so I Am 4. Tell us that was like a number 1 bestseller, and it says on the back of your book
got turned into a movie.
Author of 2 New York Times bestsellers, but they don't say the names of the book because I guess you're legally not allowed to.
Well, obviously, since I'm talking about it on this show now, there's certain things I can say. If I wanted to put the titles of the book on the back of my jacket, I probably could have.
But they're not the same genre.
They're not the same genre, and I'm really trying to, once you get labeled as a commercial writer, that's a tough stigma to break. And, I was fine with publishing that book under a pseudonym. Everything that was written about me and James in the New York Magazine article was complete shit. And just, I'm so jaded towards journalism right now because of that. And not only that, but the Wall Street Journal published the same article talking about this whole dispute that I had with James. It was all shit.
Well, shatter the myth. Tell us what happened and how this.
James and I have, what my relationship with him was a genial one. We were fine. We're still friends. We still talk. We the whole, I have no idea what his business setup is now, but when I wrote that with him, it was very much a partnership. We worked together on the book. I would write a chapter, I would send it to him, we would talk about it and progress forward. The $250, the having no rights, of being able to be fired at any time was not true for me. I owned half the copyright. And, we went through a sort of contentious period when I walked away from the project after finishing the second book. But aside from that, we're fine, and we always have been.
And you met Spielberg.
And I got to meet Steven Spielberg. I got to meet Michael Bay. I got to go on set while they filmed the movie in Pittsburgh. And, it was a great experience. I have absolutely no regrets. It opened up a lot of doors for me. Mm-hmm. And it was a great way for me to come out of Columbia, 1 month after I graduated.
It sounds like a unique experience. I mean, from what I've heard, and you're telling me I shouldn't believe everything I read, of course, but it sounds like your relationship with James is probably unique compared to other people who maybe got signed up for this program and who were taken advantage of, because it is so hard to create opportunities for writers. Yeah. Writing is a tough road to hoe. Mm-hmm.
Well, based on our success for that, he tried to then replicate it and turned it into a business. That's all I can really speak on in regards to what he's doing now, because I just don't know if the sweatshop or whatever you want to call it, is the deals he's giving writers now who work for him, is that what they're... I don't know. I have no idea. But for me, it was a very positive experience. I don't regret it. And that being said, literary fiction has always been my passion, and I'm very happy to have been able to move on and write my own books under my own name that I want to.
You are very, very fair. No, I think your attitude is the right one. You benefited from it, definitely. You have a new book, totally unrelated to that liar. And you're moving forward, and I wish you great success, and I hope everyone buys At Dawn and it blows your other book out of the water.
No, I think this is very positive too. I think your attitude
You're not
is
petty
a good
like
one.
Me.
Oh man, a couple of bitter authors in this room, but yes and no. I mean, honestly, I'm very, very thankful for all the good experiences I've had, as a writer. But it's true because I'm primarily known as a journalist, as a memoirist. My book after that was nonfiction, sort of American social history. And as a journalist, a lot of people weren't interested in me writing fiction.
Yeah.
The last fiction I wrote was Penthouse Letters. But I'll tell you what, I was good at it. I made enough money writing pornography to put a down payment on my apartment. But no one really, cares about that. So it's just sort of like an item point on my resume now. It's like, you're a journalist, stick to it, Mike. And my agent didn't really want to hear about it, that I wanted to write a novel.
Nobody, my friend, I have a good friend who's a ghostwriter for a number of big projects, like Snooki's book. She's the ghostwriter for that.
And Big Ange.
And, well, I don't know if we're allowed to say that. But anyway, that wasn't fiction. Snooki's book was actually Snooki's novel, but she has a lot of trouble, and she's very well.
She's a fabulous writer.
Yeah, really great writer, but
And
she's
very
just
accomplished.
like, Jude, don't ever write fiction. It's
With a great track record.
It's really hard.
Lots of books. Well, her biggest book was a nonfiction book, right? That was her biggest book.
Well, her book right now, It's Hard Not to Hate You, just came out in paperback, available everywhere. Why not plug our friends?
Absolutely. Well, it's so hard to get, as a writer, it's so hard to get a leg up. Like Judy and I are both working writers. And I put that in quotes. Judy, what are you working on this week?
I can't reveal the name of one project, but I'm reviewing the haunted shows at Coney Island.
But you do some marketing work for some consumer products. You've done toothpaste, and I've done a deodorant campaign, and I'm not in advertising. But man, when that job comes along, I take that job. I remember writing. They tried to turn it down. They kept offering me more money to write press releases for timeshares on a sailboat. Okay, I fancy myself a successful journalist, and this is what I was writing to keep the lights on.
Yeah.
Never mind all the pornography I wrote, which actually brings me to my next question. You went to Columbia. You came out of a creative writing program in Columbia. And I'm honestly always suspect of creative writing programs, but I say this because I've never actually been in one. But my experience with people who've come out of them is that they are so self-conscious of being writers, they kind of wear it on their sleeves. And so many people I know who have come out, you're different. You've written this great novel, and you've achieved things as a genre writer as well, which I think is good. And you weren't too precious to write genre stuff, which a lot of people I think that come out of those programs may be. They all want to be the next David Foster Wallace and whatnot.
Oh, absolutely. My experience. During the time, I would kind of shit on Columbia because it's an interesting. I don't know. I guess MFA programs are really great for people who lack the discipline to sit down and write every day. And I've never lacked that sort of discipline because an MFA program really just hammers the words out of you. You have to turn shit in every couple weeks.
I think that's important.
You're not gonna. Yeah, it is. But that was something I didn't necessarily need because I wrote every day regardless.
Did you find the critiques in class helpful?
I did. You really have to, as Hemingway said, have a built-in bullshit detector, because half of the stuff that you hear from other authors and even from professors who are in your workshop is going to be shit.
Who are bitter authors themselves.
Yeah, exactly. And so you really have to know how to take that for what it is. Separate the good stuff from the bad stuff, and a lot of people have a tough time. The absolute worst thing anybody can do is then, take everything that's been said and try to incorporate it in their work.
Oh, yeah.
At best, that's going to be a recipe for mediocrity and usually just shit. Yeah, exactly.
Ooh, how postmodern.
So, yeah.
I'll tell you what, let's take a quick break. Okay, we've got some music from our friends at Daptone Records, and we'll come back and we'll talk about writing with our friend Jobie Hughes. This is Mike and Judy on the Heritage Radio Network.
Of the Ancients from the Budos Band on heritageradionetwork.org. Like what you hear so far? Support the network and become a member. Membership helps us bring you the best food radio in the world and gives you access to thousands of dollars in discounts at the sustainably minded businesses that support us. To become a member, visit heritageradionetwork.org today.
And we're back. I love when we get to hear Jack's voice on the radio. He should be on every... I miss you too, Jack.
Hey, Jack, we got a big show coming up, though, right?
Right.
Election night. I hope everybody tunes in. It's going to be the Heritage Radio Apocalypse Watch.
We've got some real surprise guests, too.
Yeah, we got some heavyweights. So join us on election night. We're going to go live 8 to 11 right here. It's going to be a party. You can join us, right, Judy?
Yeah, Mickey Finn and I are working on a new number.
We've got live piano music. Last night, me and Mickey were working on the regional tunes, so we got a little Springsteen for when the New Jersey.
All right.
We got a little Deep in the Heart of Texas, and some Detroit music, some Michigan music.
It's going to be a can't miss. One thing I wanted to ask Jobie is like the thing that I like the idea of an MFA program. I would never go into that much debt to write, but because I just can't afford it.
I have without the program.
Yeah, that's true. Exactly. I've spent more on my book than I made. But you said that you have no trouble. So tell me, you're no trouble sitting down to write for what, like hours a day? What is your routine?
I write to a quota every day when I'm churning out a first draft, I should say. And that's 1,000 words a day every day. And I don't, some days it takes me 2-3 hours. Some days it takes me 10, literally. But I keep my ass glued in that seat until I hit that quota.
I'm with the 1,000 word a day thing. 1,000 good words. I always describe it out. I want to write 1,000 good words every day.
That's the target. But some days I'm staring up the ass of a dead dog with fleas. But
yeah, it can be tough. But I usually can do 1,000 good words before lunch because after that I'm done though. Because after that the work turns bad anyway.
Because you've had your beer in the shower.
I've had my beer in the shower. I've had my kooky coffee, and the seesaw is tipping in the wrong direction by that point. But 1,000 good words, and then I can take a break in the afternoon. I can start playing with those words because I think any good writer will tell you the secret is revise.
Oh, absolutely.
But 1,000 good words, and then my word bag is empty, and I got to put it aside and let it get filled up magically overnight.
So do you have a specific place you write? Are you one of those people that has a routine, like 2 cups of coffee, or do you just?
No, I write at my dining room table every day, and I don't necessarily have a routine. I don't write from I'm not always at my desk by a certain time, but my routine is that I can only write in cut off sleeveless tees and cargo shorts, literally.
Do you have an
outfit,
I don't know what
Judy?
it is. Do you have a writing outfit?
I do have a writing outfit. I don't want to talk about
Really?
it. Yeah.
Tell us.
Yeah,
Jack
come
wants
on,
to
you
know.
can't get up. We're not letting you up to look like that.
Yeah.
Do you write with all your girlfriends?
We have Vaseline pillow fights. Then I'm energized to write with pasties.
I hear that's how Snooki's book got done too.
Yeah. Okay, so tell us a little bit about At Dawn.
Sure, it's a coming of age story, I guess, about a 27-year-old aspiring writer who, at the beginning of the book, leaves New York for Chicago to try to outrun his very dark past. It's sort of, a mystery novel in that sort of sense. I hate to put it in that sort of genre, but...
God forbid you become a genre writer.
I know. I never would have thought about that until I did a radio interview last week, and the woman kept saying, it's really a mystery because you don't. I'm like, well, I guess it is.
What's wrong about writing a mystery novel? What's wrong with being a genre writer? Ideally, I think if I were to write another novel or something serious, I've always wanted to write a mystery novel, but of course, I think mine. I'd like to think it would be literary, and I hope it would be in the mystery section of the bookstore. It would be in the literary fiction,
without a doubt.
Ideally, like Thomas, is it Pynchon's last book was the mystery, which I thought was great, and certainly Raymond Chandler, my all-time favorite author. I know that's the whole thing, and this is an industry like the music industry too. It used to be more so.
Struggling with now,
they just want to put you in a box.
Exactly.
So how dare you color outside the lines, Jobie Hughes?
It is very much a literary novel, regardless of whether there's elements of mystery in it or not. But
look, no one's going to mistake you for Dan Brown, okay? Okay,
I wish I could be mistaken
Yeah,
for his
I
bank
would
account.
exactly.
Yeah.
I wouldn't mind that.
Well, that's one of those things. I mean, that book is so ham-fisted. It's so poorly written, but the story is very compelling. There's no question about that. And I read it on a transatlantic flight in one sitting, and I gotta say, I really enjoyed the Da Vinci Code. But I mean, some of the writing was just fucking embarrassing. And reading your stuff, I mean, you have an alacrity with your prose, and you're deft, and you're facile, and you know the language, and
Thank you.
And it's art, but it's not so self-consciously art that it's getting in the way of telling a story.
That was a very exciting part about writing at Dawn after, writing in the very simple prose that I had to for I Am Number 4 in the Power of Six. It was like this holy shit, I can actually show that I know how to write. I can have sentences that go on more than 2 lines,
I mean, there is
so
a certain
liberating.
talent to that, though. I mean, I wrote a Hardy Boys mystery myself, and that, I mean, the prescribed limits on that went down to character per line. But, writing, it's an exercise. It really, it's just like a technical exercise that I think shows your discipline.
But this is also why newspapers read so easily. And if you look at the tabloids like the New York Post, you'll never find more than 25 words before someone hits a carriage return. Do they still call it a carriage return?
Nobody knows what that is, Mike.
Before starting a new graph, okay? And that's fine because it reads very quickly that way. And long paragraphs are a luxury.
They're hard.
Well, as long as they don't get in the way. I mean, not everybody can be Norman Mailer and write like a 5-page paragraph. Sure. And do we really want to either? As much as I admire Norman Mailer, I mean, it can be rough going sometimes.
Yeah, absolutely. My own inspirations, I have Hemingway's initials tattooed on the underside of my left wrist. And,
what's that? Yeah, what's that tattoo?
This is another Hemingway. It's one of my favorite quotes from Farewell to Arms. It says "strong at the broken places," which is taken from a much longer.
Well, the last guy on here was talking about Hemingway. He took off to Hollywood after the show.
Yeah, he wrote. Our friend Marty Beckerman wrote the Hemingway. I don't know if you've read that, but
no.
it's very funny.
And it's a guide to being macho, more or less.
That is great.
Like you must kill your own food if it's meat.
That's murder, Judy. Your friend Morrissey wouldn't approve.
Well, Marcy and I.
So what's the McGuire writing method? Because you, especially lately when you're doing more commercial writing, which is different. You're not writing for yourself. You're writing specifically for a client, which is something entirely different.
Well, see, it's hard because now after writing for money for all these years now, like I write a weekly column for a paper in Seattle. I do commercial writing. If I don't have a deadline and a paycheck waiting for me, it's really hard for me to sit down and write something just for myself. Like work on a book on spec, work on a book proposal, because I'm so used to, I kind of wish I had used a different part of my brain in work, because I feel like I kind of use it up writing really boring marketing copy.
Well, I say that Bye Bye Miss American Pie was my first piece of fiction, but I wrote 28 pornographic novels, right? Which is being moved further and further down on my CV as I find that it's turning more and more people off. Maybe that was a good ticket back in the day, because it's such
20.
It's a gee whiz number 28. 28. That's right. Angela Class Virgin. Busting Susan's Cherry, they were mine. Yeah, Rich Man Sex Toy, yeah, that was mine. And the thing was, we wrote a book a week, and you had to do it. There were about 45,000 words each. They're short books, and they were filthy. And this is how I learned how to write and not be intimidated. This is like after I flagged out of NYU because I couldn't write 5,000 words on the myth of the Western or some revisionist noir, babble, because I was in film school and I couldn't get the paper done. And all of a sudden, I was writing a book a week. And when I got back to school, I was an inmate at Columbia for a short time. It was no longer a problem. And I'd write all my papers with the same techniques I used to write long porn stories. I mean, you'd sit down. I worked from an outline. I always outline it, know where I'm going, and I sit down with a bottle of bourbon. When the bottle of bourbon was done, the paper would be done. And it worked. But it was, like Judy says, it was about putting your head down and writing. Hungover, fuck you, write. Feel like fucking off and going to the ball game, fuck you, write. Put the bong away, quit doting on the cat, and don't make another sandwich, write, because otherwise you don't get paid.
I mean, have you sold your next book? I mean, I know this is a terrible thing to ask a writer, but what's next?
Sorry, I'm still trying to imagine writing a book a week.
Well,
pornography or not, Jesus.
What was the sketch?
It was a crime against the language, and you talk about hitting that return, the carriage return, really fast. One thing we always said was never underestimate the dramatic impact of a one-word paragraph. So there'd be these sex scenes that'd be like la 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 la, because on a page it would go, and you had to get to the end of the chapter. It was a line count. You get to the end of the chapter, and you'd suddenly be chapter 2, and that's how you got a book done. And for a while, you could really play. There's always every book had the same conversation. You want a drink? Sure. What do you got? What do you have? What are you interested in? Scotch? No. Gin? Yes. No. Yes. No. Tequila? That would just
a lot of white space
because the books were about 45,000 words, but really they were like 600 lines each chapter, and that's how we counted. So there are a lot of tricks we could play, but still, the books had to have plots, beginning, middles, and ends, and you can only cheat it so much.
Sure, absolutely. Christ, I don't actually even remember the question.
Mike, let our guest speak too.
So after I walked away from the project, I definitely had I felt a sense of urgency to hurry up and get my own shit out there, because the longer I spent without getting my own book out there, the harder it was going to be to break that label that, I was a commercial writer. And if, people started calling me a ghostwriter, which is complete bullshit. I wasn't. But what's next? So I got At Dawn out, which I'm, it's now out on shelves. I'm thrilled. I'm happy. But that being said, I still feel this sense of urgency to hurry up. I'm almost done with my next book. It's called At the Gates of Pyrrhus. It's about an Iraq war vet who comes home on leave, goes AWOL from the war, embarks on a cross-country killing spree to do away with everybody he deems necessary or deems responsible for fucking him up. Very dark book, about as far from YA as you can possibly get.
Yeah, really.
80,000 words done. I figure I have about another 40,000 to go, so 2/3 of the way.
This is the literary version of Rambo: First Blood?
Yeah, exactly. I hope.
Do you do what Mike said, like work up an outline?
I don't. I start with a broad concept and go from there. I think that, my own philosophy, that is, if you tell yourself the great lie of art, or at least bad art, that you are in control, then any hope for the truth is lost. Or as my protagonist in At Dawn says, the surest way to be wrong in a story, as in life, as in a relationship, is to think you're in control. So I try not to control my stories as much as it's cliche as hell, but I think stories for the most part write themselves. And that being said, when I start, I fill legal pads. I fill, my desk is cluttered with sticky notes of ideas of things that I think are going to come with possible endings, but I don't box my stories in. I let them go. Sometimes they go in the direction I think they will. Sometimes they veer in a completely opposite direction.
It's great when you can surprise yourself.
Well, I think
that's the fun, creating characters and putting them loose in the world and just kind of see where they go, see what happens. It's kind of voyeuristic. After anybody who has spent time in New York City, I guess turns into a voyeur in one sense or another, and I very much have. And
I think your point is, I think it's very important. Is you have to listen to your own book, because it will definitely tell you what it wants to be.
Yeah,
and you can't fight it. You can't fight back against the book. That being said, I'm talking using an outline, of course, for writing nonfiction, which and there are so many things you have to hit. But when I am writing fiction, something David Lynch had said once that I remembered that I took to heart, and he uses index cards, and I started using the system a little bit too. And he says, well, you put a scene on each card, and when you have 80 cards filled, you pretty much have a movie. And I'm very big on putting it on the wall or laying it on the floor, and then you can sort of move parts around, kind of like a rubric until it really is where you want it to be. And like I said, you're writing fiction, you get to a place, and all of a sudden a new possibility emerges, and that is what life is about. It's all about possibilities, right? And good fiction, I would think.
Absolutely.
You can definitely go off the rails a little bit as our lives all have. Has it been, once again, the fastest 30 minutes on radio, Judy? You can't believe it.
So.
It flew right by. So, Jobie, you're doing a couple gigs in town, but you're on tour. Where can people find you? On your website, on Twitter, on Facebook?
Well, at this point, the tour's done. I was in New York for a week. I'm happy to be back here now. I spent a week in Chicago, but that being said, who knows what's going to come up. JobieHughes.com, JobieHughes. I have my tour on there for all future events. Anybody wants to learn more, go there, shoot me an email.
And you're moving to New Hampshire, right?
Yeah.
Live free or die, baby.
Live free or die. I'm moving there tomorrow, actually, so unfortunately I'm going to have to watch the election results on Tuesday from a hotel room, which I'm dreading.
I understand.
Better than being in a bar in New Hampshire.
I understand at least one of the candidates will be doing the same, I think.
Yeah, exactly.
Well, all right. That's Jobie Hughes for Mike and Judy and Jack the engineer. This is Mike Geddes, and we'll see you guys next week.
Thanks,
right here on the Mike
guys.
and Judy Show.
Been a pleasure.
Thanks for listening to this program on heritageradionetwork.org. You can find all of our archived programs on our website or as podcasts in the iTunes Store by searching Heritage Radio Network. You can like us on Facebook and follow us on Twitter at heritage_radio. You can email us questions at any time at info@heritageradionetwork.org. Heritage Radio Network is a non-profit organization. To donate and become a member, visit our website today. Thanks for listening.
Hey there, I'm Lee Ullman here with some big news from the National Young Farmers Coalition. We're partnering with Heritage Radio Network on a special season of The Farm Report. It's all about what's happening with the Farm Bill and how it impacts farmers and eaters.
I am growing diversified vegetables on land that's been in our family for 150 years.
And so with the pandemic, gentrification, property values going up, we had to sell the land and we lost it.
Join us as we uncover the untold stories behind this massive piece of legislation that shapes how we grow our food, what we eat, and so much more.
The problems we have had, those are things that come from earlier Farm Bill and USDA policy, right? Like Earl Butts, get big or get out.
You know, it's my responsibility to know not only what I'm eating, but then like how that all came to be. And realize like, wow, like this piece of legislation, all this money, like it's technically something that I support as a taxpayer.
While Congress debates the next Farm Bill, this is not just an invitation to listen. It's a call to action. Be part of the conversation. Subscribe to the Farm Report on Heritage Radio Network, wherever you listen to podcasts.